This is The Real Estate and Investment Show with Daniel Clavijo. The #1 show for real estate and investment interviews. Brought to you in part by Wadi Associates, residential architecture of distinction. For 50 years, delivering high-quality architectural and interior design services, serving New Canaan, Palm Beach, and beyond. And by RenQuest, specializing in the renovation and restoration of vintage automobiles. RenQuest, it's why we drive. Room. And now, it's time for The Real Estate and Investment Show with Daniel Clavijo. All right, hello, and thank you for tuning in to The Real Estate and Investment Show with Daniel Clavijo. I am Daniel Clavijo, coming to you from beautiful, sunny Palm Beach, Florida. What is The Real Estate and Investment Show, and who am I, you may ask? Well, our show wants to focus on the experience of amazing people in the real estate and investment space and share their knowledge with you, our wonderful audience. I truly hope that together we can spark some ideas and inspiration for you, wherever that may be. And who am I? Well, I'm an architect grad from the University of Miami, MBA grad from NYU Stern, and I've been designing homes in Palm Beach and the surrounding areas for over a decade. I now also get to share the stories of such talented individuals with you. Questions or suggestions about our show, write to us at info@TheReandishow.com. That also spells out thereandishow.com, abbreviated form for the Real Estate and Investment Show. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you enjoy your podcast. We appreciate your help. Like, comment, follow, and subscribe. Above all, share with your friends and family. It's thanks to you that we will be able to grow and bring you high-quality content and guests in the real estate and investment space. Speaking of which, we have an amazing guest with us today. She is a seasoned real estate and corporate attorney with years of experience in big law who recently started her own practice here in Palm Beach. A skilled deal maker and crafter of contracts, among other disciplines, she specializes in commercial real estate nationwide. And if that's not impressive enough, she's also a certified scuba diver. She is the woman, the wonder, the legend, the one and only Laura Maher.
Wow, that is quite the intro.
Well, I'm glad you like it. We tried to exceed expectations, as I like to say. Thank you so much for joining us, Laura. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you so much for being on the show. Now, the importance of a skilled attorney can never be underestimated, in my opinion, and especially in real estate, which our show focuses on. So you have quite the impressive track record that I think our audience would like to hear about. And so, as we say, cheers.
Cheers.
If you can please tell the audience a little bit about your background, a little about your bio, and please take it away.
Sure. Well, I grew up here in South Florida.
All right.
Yep, Broward County, and then moved to Martin County in 8th grade. So I'm a homegrown Floridian.
As am I. That's great to hear.
Yes. And then went to UF for undergrad, Harvard Law for law school.
I've heard of them.
Little school in Cambridge. I stopped saying that. You know, new grads always say, oh, I went to a small school in Cambridge because they're so bashful. I went to Harvard Law, and I'm proud of it. So I'm excited. Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah.
You should be.
And came back home right after law school, worked at Greenberg Traurig in West Palm Beach, working and training with the best commercial real estate lawyers there are. Mm-hmm. And from there, I've had a mix of experiences. I've worked at global real estate private equity funds. I've worked in-house at real estate developers. And most recently, I was a partner at a large, big law firm with offices across the nation. So this year I decided to take the leap and do something I've always wanted to do, which is start my own law firm.
Congratulations.
That
is amazing, Laura. It's always definitely a big jump to be able to do that, and you've got the skill and the experience with it, so congratulations on doing it. Hopefully for many years to come in the future that this is going to be an exciting enterprise.
Thank you. Yeah, it's scary and exciting and gets your blood pumping. You
Yep.
know, every day I wake up, it's a new adventure and a new challenge.
Well,
So.
that deserves a round of applause. Again, anyways, because
So I mean, I'm here talking with you and being in the building. It's been wonderful to meet lots of people. And just the first shameless plug will be if you're looking for a good real estate lawyer, call me.
absolutely. And we'll put all your information on the show notes
Yeah.
so that they know where to reach you. So let me ask, when did you know that law was for you? What was the inspiration to go into the field?
I think as a child, I always had this innate sense of justice, right? And the feeling like there should be fairness in the world, that good must win over evil, and it was almost a naive sense of, you know, justice and right versus wrong.
Right.
That led to, in undergraduate, really concentrating my studies on economics with a strong passion for child welfare. So I worked as a paralegal at the Department of Children and Families in Fort Pierce,
Okay.
helping children, really serving their best interests through dependency proceedings, which is proceedings where there's been abuse or neglect. And I combined that in a not a weird way, but I combined that with my study of economics. So, you know, I was a nerd in undergrad.
That's all right.
And really liked studying, really liked researching.
I know the feeling.
And through my study of economics, I also became intrigued by law and economics and how you can structure incentives through contracting, through taxation, and change human behavior.
True.
And I found that to be very fascinating. And everything just kind of combined into just law being the logical choice for me. So I applied to law schools. I graduated from undergrad a semester early, so I went to go work for Morgan Stanley in New York right after undergraduate,
Very cool.
and then got into law school about 8 months in, and then left.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what was your interest then from going as that paralegal experience, and then what did you find in your studies at Harvard to determine that you were going to go into this commercial real estate, or were you already doing something in a different field of law when you went to law school?
So in the field of law, there's really two big highways, if you will. There's the litigation side, and then there's the transactional side.
Yes.
And I didn't know which side I really wanted to do when I went in. And I had internships at Milbank in New York, and then Latham and Watkins in San Diego. And so through that, they allowed me to explore different practice groups, and I really gravitated towards the transactional side. So I focused my studies on transactions. I was part of the transactional law clinic in law school, and loved the negotiation program.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing better, because it was just it was a chance to really be different than a lot of my peers. You know, a lot of my peers were very smart intellectually. I was a public school girl, born and raised in South Florida, right? I didn't come to law school having read all the opus of Supreme Court opinions and knowing what they like for breakfast, whereas a lot of my peers were just next level intellectual. But in negotiation,
You think more on your feet. It's
I
more
thought
of
more.
a,
Yeah, negotiation. It was thinking more on your feet, but it was also more dynamic, and being able to respond in real time, like you know, thinking on your feet and reacting to the human element of things. And I really latched on to the lessons that were taught by Bob Bordone at the time, who is still in the negotiation space, but just finding ways to create value and to discover opportunities for value creation
right.
that many of my peers did not have, because they were so smart and so heady, and they had their spreadsheets and understood everything.
Yep.
And they almost played these like Machiavellian games, like I'm gonna like beat them, and they had like game theory matrices, you know. And here I am, I'm like, well, what does this person really want? How are they feeling about this? Let's talk this through, right?
Yes.
Let's figure out a solution that works for them. And many of my friends were like, we I don't know how you did it, but like you got all the value on my little sheet. We had like 2 sheets. They're like, I don't know how you did it, but like I gave away everything I could give away in this simulation. So
Right,
it was,
right.
it was fun. Yeah, but that was kind of, and then knowing that I like deal making going into it, um, the opportunity presented itself in Florida to come return home and start in commercial real estate.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I know the feeling with that, with the negotiation. When I did my MBA, we had a class that was taught simultaneously with some law students at
Right.
NYU, and Professor Seth Freeman, shout out to him, he had like this great class as well that really motivated me for negotiations. And
Yeah.
it's always that finding what the interests are for different parties,
Right.
Because if there's one party who will be your client and there are things that they want to get, and then you're dealing with the other party and the other attorneys, and you have to figure out how to manage all those interests. It's
Right.
something that is so prevalent in everybody's lives. It's right, not just law, not
Right.
just architecture, real estate. Do you have or want to share a suggestion for a tactic for negotiation so that our listeners can think about next time?
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest thing and the most underrated thing in negotiation is preparation.
True.
I
Yeah.
think two things that I learned in negotiation in the academic setting, which has evolved now that I've been doing this in the legal world for 13 plus years. But two things that I learned was number one, taking the time beforehand to just list out, like you said, both sides' interests, taking
Yeah.
a couple guesses, right? Well, this person's about this age. Maybe they're close to retirement. Maybe that's an interest. Maybe they're thinking about their legacy, right? Maybe like kind of getting in their head a little bit
Right.
beforehand and brainstorming what they might be thinking. And then from those two lists, you'll discover things you wouldn't have thought about before because we're always so conditioned to just think from our own perspective.
Yeah.
Just having the discipline to think about the other sides, not what they might be positioning, not what they're going to go out with to start, because they're always going to go, high, you go low. I mean, that's a given. But what are they really after at the end of the day? What drives them? What motivates them? That's really important exercise. And the second exercise to do before any negotiation is understanding your BATNA.
Yes.
So your best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Yes,
And
indeed.
working hard to strengthen your BATNA is key. And you and I, it's funny that you did this too.
Yeah.
Because we kind of speak
My-
the same language.
My dad's also an attorney, so
Okay.
that's about. And my
Okay.
sister also went and studied law, and she's an attorney. So
Yeah.
and probably one day maybe I go to law school. Who knows? But
I have clients that they, I give them coaching and advice going into things, and I'll use terms like BATNA, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so nerdy. I gotta like, alter my communication sometimes, but yeah, strengthening your BATNA, because going into a negotiation, the stronger your alternative to a negotiated
Yep.
outcome is, the better you feel, the better you the more leverage you have, really.
Exactly.
So, and then over time, you gain experience and recognize those green, new, fresh blooded grads out of law school or business school coming in. Let's talk about interests. They also get taken advantage of all the time. So you got to have thick skin and know, things that you can't learn in a classroom, right? So over time, learning
Yep.
when to just get up and leave,
Exactly.
when
Yep.
to pause, when to
Yeah.
tell a funny story.
There's so much of the human element, and yes, that's very. Thank you so much for sharing that, because those are great nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah.
Getting to Yes is, of course, the classic book. So, when you came back to Florida, so tell us a little bit about your work as when you started and how the real estate component got developed. I know that you mentioned that you were working for an actual development company, correct?
Yeah, I have worked for development companies. My first job out of law school was at a big law firm in the Phillips Point building here in West Palm.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and I had
Yes.
a view of the Intercoastal. It was a time when there were not many law grads, because it was coming out of the Great Recession of 2008. Real estate was still not a very robust industry. I mean, it was moderately paced, but there were people looking over their shoulder. Am I going to get fired this year? Still, when I graduated,
Sure.
I had a very good mentor right out of law school. We worked on many deals for many developers and institutional clients. Real estate, I thought I was going to be going to New York with my BlackBerry, my Starbucks in the other hand, working on high stakes mergers. Like I thought that was what transactional work was going to look like for me.
Yeah.
When I decided to return home to Florida, which was a very conscious choice and not one that many of my peers did at the time. Things have certainly changed. But when I returned home, the landscape for legal transactional work in Palm Beach was limited, and real estate was a big focus of the group here. So that's where I got my start. And over the years, I have just absolutely fell in love with it. It is creative. It is historic. You know, reviewing title and survey. It's so physical. You can go drive
Yeah.
by and see things. And one of the first things I learned about was title and survey and tracing, which I'm sure you appreciate as an architect, right?
Yes,
tracing
indeed.
tracing out legal descriptions and at a very technical level understanding how surveys are done, and then reviewing title records and understanding the history of the land when it was platted.
Mm-hmm.
Who had occupied it before, and what was their use, and
Yes.
then turning to the phase one environmental report and seeing how that history affects environmental matters. So it's a very specialized field. It's a very interesting field, physical. I've loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that initial part and most of your work has been in the commercial sector, correct?
That's right. That's right. So that's, I would say, my highest and best use.
Mm-hmm.
I have done ground up development work. I have bought stabilized multifamily, office, industrial, retail, and some hospitality. I've also worked in the medical office space. So all of these things have been very rewarding. I've done JV work in connection with commercial real estate deals. So on both the sponsor side and the capital provider side, negotiating joint venture agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, either a lot of times either you're a real estate person or a JV lawyer. You're not both. It's one of my value adds. And then
Can you go into a little bit more detail for the audience about what that entails?
yeah, so a joint venture agreement. Say I want to go out and develop some property. I'm buying raw land from a farmer. I want to do a master plan and have different pods and all of this, but I'm just a lowly lawyer and don't have very many resources. So I'm going to go partner with a capital provider. So I would set up a joint venture agreement, a holding company that would ultimately typically own a special purpose entity that owns the real estate, and we'd each agree to contribute certain capital, or I might contribute my sweat equity. I might
Right.
contribute kind of the efforts that I'm putting into the deal, and the capital provider would contribute cash or land, and the JV would provide for certain rights in terms of management, major decision rights, and then ultimately cash flow waterfall provisions. So if I'm the manager and I'm running the day to day, I might expect to get what's called a promote. So I might want, if the deal does a lot better than expected, then I might want to get an outsized percentage of the overall cash distributions relative to my actual contributions, relative to my capital
Sure.
so dollar for dollar I'm getting a little bit more because I've put in the labor and really and the capital provider who's not doing the day-to-day wants their manager to be incentivized
Of course.
to achieve those returns, so they're going to set it up that way. Again, going back to the law and economics, incentive structuring, right?
Absolutely.
So this is all just give me goosebumps because it's so fun. Yeah.
Well, you can definitely see it. You've got a smile the mile wide, which is
Yeah.
great to see how people get so passionate about their work.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned about you working with your mentor. What do you think was the best kind of inspiration or lesson that they taught you during your time, how that has, led you on into your continued profession?
Yeah, I think one big moment that stands out to me, and I'll just share their name. They're still in the legal industry and they're great. Pam Linden, who's general counsel at DLP Capital, and Howard Bregman, who was at the time managing partner of the office.
Shout out to Pam and Howard.
Yes, I remember I was working on a deal. It was, I was so green, and I had all the mental horse. I was like ready to go, right? I wanted to bring everything that I had to this job. I wanted to like give it my all. And they gave me a task to create a contract from scratch. There was no template. It was bespoke. It was,
That sounds fun.
Go at it. Here's a first year lawyer kind of like, no, there's no guidelines, right?
Yes.
You just create it from scratch. And I had a certain approach about it that was more like a computer coder, kind of my left-brained mentality, and also just kind of how at the time I saw contracts was very mechanical. It may have been influenced by my husband at the time studying coding, and our conversations kind of revolving around that a little bit, and how the law and contracts are very similar to coding in a way, defining your terms and using them properly in logical interface. So that's how I saw the world. That's how I saw my job. That's how I saw things being perfectly ordered. And I crafted this contract that functioned. If you ran it through a machine, it would work.
Right.
But it read like it was not designed for a human to read. Gotcha. And so I remember they got it, and it was like 8:00 at night. I lived in a townhouse in Lake Worth at the time, and they called me. They're like, Laura, we got to work on this. And they both took time on the phone for like 2 hours going through kind of how to do it better. And the main takeaway from that call was, Laura, you have to draft in a narrative style that makes sense to a human. You have to draft. How would you say it? How would you say it to someone sitting right in front of you?
Right.
Where would you start? And I said, well, obviously it's, so we're doing this. This is the background. Okay, well, then start with that, right? That's what's called a recital section. Like you're starting with the history. Okay, and then where would you go next? Well, I'd probably hit on the most important part, right? Like the price. Let's talk about the price first. Okay, let's put that first, right? And then going from there and just saying you have to draft it so that a human is reading it and that it makes sense in that way. And I over the years, that's something I always remind myself of, and something I tell my associates as well, that we're not drafting for machines. It has to technically make sense.
Right.
Otherwise, if it ever gets to litigation, some litigator is going to pick apart the fact that this cross-reference doesn't match this, and it has to technically work. But where you put things in a document, how you order them, how you describe things. It could say the same exact thing, but in different places and in a different order, it has a whole different meaning. And courts, they're also not machines. They're not reading it with the machine lens. So when you're going before a court and saying, Your Honor, I intended it this way. Clearly, this is what it says, black and white. They may say, well, look, it's in the context of number one, it's ambiguous, and it's in the context of this section. So this is how I interpret it. They're humans interpreting a contract.
Right.
So it's a very human-oriented endeavor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear and find out. So when you then went on to your next position, what did you find interesting over there?
So the next series of positions were in-house roles, and there I learned to think like an owner.
There you go.
Yeah. So there I sat on the investment committee of one of the private equity funds I was involved with. I helped underwrite deals, not from a financial modeling side of things, but I got exposure to that. Right, I saw them share. I saw the business team share the financial discounted cash flow pro forma, and that was something that you don't see as outside counsel. I saw how decisions are made, what's most critical for various asset classes like medical office, the tenant interviews, and underwriting of the tenant stickiness and all that. It's very important, versus obviously multifamily. It's less important that that one individual tenant is there, and more important that the comps are right. You look at new supply on the market. You're making sure you're not going to have to give a bunch of concessions,
Right.
as soon as you buy this building, because you got 5 new projects coming online. Like, it's a different analysis, and I really learned the underwriting for different asset classes in house.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then as the partner in the, how did that track record go about? What was your inclination in that field?
Being a partner in big law is an interesting endeavor. I really enjoyed the colleagues that I met. Platform was great. They've got a person doing every sort of administrative function you could imagine. So there's nothing that you have to do besides draft and bill. So that was really nice.
Yes.
And now, on the flip side, as a business owner, I'm responsible for much more than that.
Right.
Which is I find it exciting, and I love the creative elements of that. But no, I think the being a partner at a big law firm, look, it's rewarding. I found it challenging, and I'm grateful for the connections that I made. I think I also learned how to really run my book of business, and how to get in the routine of onboarding clients, billing clients, and collecting. And it's not like I stayed in big law or stayed in private law firms my entire career. So it was a nice
Variety of.
yeah, it was a nice entry way to get kind of like trained in the basics of running a book of business, and then do it for myself.
Exactly.
So
So, as in all these different parts, you've had different interactions with the clients at different levels, right? So, how did you see it as when you were starting out versus now that you're in your own firm? What was the differences you saw in kind of like those levels that you'd like to share?
I think when I was starting out, I always liked client interaction. I always liked being the go-to. I've been pretty fiercely independent from the beginning and craved autonomy.
Yeah.
So we had one developer client that had a lot of matters for the firm, and one matter was a small. He was trying to aggregate a bunch of little units in a condo building, and they were very small. Each individual closing was a small dollar amount, so no partner was really interested in managing that, and so they gave it to me, and that was my favorite part of the job, because I got to have direct client interaction, and I was confident I knew what I was doing. I mean, it was really all the makings of a big real estate deal: a deed, title, all the searches that you'd normally get, but just on a smaller scale with less risk to the firm and to the client. So I really appreciated that, and I've always appreciated the client interaction side of things. And now, as I've gotten older, I think it's more rewarding, because many of my clients are kind of at around my age level or older. I feel more confident because I've been doing this for so long.
Right.
In my advice, and just comparing it back to when I was younger. But I've always provided the personalized service. I like bouncing ideas and getting to know clients on a personal level, and really being their strategic partner. I want my clients to see me as someone who's looking out for their interests, not just on the task at hand, but
Right.
I think about it when I'm going for a run, or I'm, going to bed. I mean, not every all my waking hours are surrounding, involved. Like, I'm not thinking about clients every hour of the day, but
It always
in my
stays
free
with
time,
you.
yeah, I really care about my clients.
Of course.
And
I think that is an example of, again, showing the passion behind you have for your profession and for your work. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
the same thing in mind. There's probably not a time where in the back of my head, it's
Yeah.
not something that you're always thinking about it in some way, because sometimes those are the best times
Yeah.
that you get some inspiration, right? That you have to figure out another solution or another way you can help a client or a future client, where what the lessons you've learned from a previous transaction are going to help you in a future way, right?
Right,
So
right.
so that's always fun and exciting to hear. So with some of the clients, and I know that you've mentioned to me before that you've had the dealings, of course, with these high net worth individuals and their own personal properties or properties that they're developing. What do you find are kind of like some of their interests, something that you've found that you've been able to apply that you're really proud of, that you remember?
Sure. So I would consider the question you're asking kind of my family office practice and
Yes.
my ultra high net worth practice. I've helped many people on Palm Beach Island buy large estates. I've helped them renovate their estates, Palm Beach, Manalapan, and elsewhere in the country. I find that for a client like that to invite you on to work on such a personal matter, it is a privilege and an honor. And these people, they have so many advisors, and they don't just let anyone in.
Of course.
When you are designing the space that they're going to dwell in, it's a special thing. And even even when I've been at companies, the CEO, they'll only invite a couple of people in to handle their most personal matters. So I always consider that a privilege. I think they really appreciate the professionalism from the commercial world that I bring to it.
Right.
As an example, on a renovation project for a high net worth individual, I would balance the need for legal protection with the need to operate in an industry where many contractors and subcontractors are used to clients signing their standard form, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So I would typically handle that by doing a one-page addendum that gets them everything they need legally to protect them should, God forbid, someone slip and fall or bring a claim against them, but in a very user-friendly way for the contractor. So it's navigating that middle ground of making sure they are protected,
Yes.
but at the same time working within the world of South Florida real estate, South Florida construction, which not everyone is operating on the same wavelength.
Yep.
Yeah. So and you meet people where they are. Everyone has different skill sets, right? Like you may
Absolutely.
really want this landscaper who's really good at landscaping, but does not know his way around contracts and doesn't understand when you're adding an indemnity provision what that even means. So
It's that ability to do it, as you say, a user-friendly way, very personalized to the individual, the project. Every project is different. Every individual is different, and in that way, you're satisfying all of these different interests because you're not just solely thinking about your client. Your client is like the first priority, but you realize in a way that these other people, they're also in a way clients.
yeah, it's getting the business objective or the objective of the client accomplished. And
Right.
that's my role, is like the client has a desire. They may not know how to get that done. Like they may know, I want to get this thing renovated.
Right.
And if you told them, well, do you want to be legally protected? Well, of course. Do you want, to have strong insurance? Of course. Like but then it has to be balanced with, well, here's what I like to say. I like to say I achieve clients' business objectives, and risk management is one of the business objectives that I'm working to achieve. It's one of many business objectives, right?
Yes.
And they appreciate that insight of knowing, hey, we can try for the gold standard, probably not going to get it, but I think silver's going to be okay because here's why. We're going to protect you with this added insurance program that I've negotiated on your behalf. We're going to protect you in this other way. We're going to make sure there's this other vendor that steps in to double check this thing. And like, there's many ways to skin a cat, right? So solving the problem
Yes.
within the environment and within the context that you're working is what the client really values, I think, at the end of the day. And they may say, I wouldn't have thought about it that way, but I'm glad we got it done.
Right. What has been your favorite thing so far in this short period of time that you've started your own boutique law firm? What led you to decide that this was the time, this was the moment, and what's something that you've enjoyed so far in the process?
Yeah. I think a number of factors kind of all led up to it. Probably too many to list here. This year, there was a tipping point for me, and the beginning of the year, there was just this calm confidence that I felt this year's the year. And I can't explain it. I've only felt it a couple other times in my life.
Oh,
Meeting my husband, seeing my house. It's the house that I live in now.
terrific.
It's just this when we are given kind of like the right answer in our minds from the divine, it is a blessing because it's easy to just walk into that. So that's kind of how I felt with moving into this law firm. And then probably my favorite part about it so far has been the creative element, something a muscle I didn't get to exercise very much
Yes.
in my legal practice so far. So designing the logo, coming up with the website,
You have
doing the merch.
Yeah, there's some great embroidery stuff that she has with like all the
Yeah,
merchandise.
yeah. I decided it was absolutely essential for me to purchase an embroidery machine.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've embroidered very luxe merchandise for my clients and my friends, and um, it's been worthwhile. And I've learned a new skill.
Absolutely. Always
So,
good to get the word out there.
yeah.
Now, because you specialize here, you have your office in Palm Beach, you've specialized mainly in South Florida, but you have done work in other parts of the country. What do you see in terms of like trends that you might notice in your work between like what's going on now? There's the hangover still of COVID. There's the new stuff with the big beautiful bill and all this, incentives that might be there for people who are going into the real estate space. What do you see as kind of like trends that are going on right now?
Sure. So I think there's demographic trends in the sense people are still moving to Florida. There was the COVID boom and then a little bit of a retraction with people returning to the office in gateway cities. But now with the potential California wealth tax and you know I'm seeing more people move to South Florida, Miami in particular. And Miami and Palm Beach have a little bit of a rivalry going on, but
Yes.
they're very different. And I've got clients in both areas, so that's been interesting to see on the residential side. Certainly, prices remain in the high end luxury residential remain competitive. I think we're in a time of transition. This year,
Yeah.
the year of the fire horse. I think technology is moving at a rapid pace. We're seeing data center development explosion across the United States. We're seeing people grapple with AI and get distracted by AI and
Mm-hmm.
miss the mark on AI all over the place, and people who are poised to make a lot of money from AI. So I think we all just need to be really adaptable this year, really, really nimble on our feet,
Yep.
figure out what the next best move is, constantly reevaluate, and just like we're doing here, kind of connect with smart people, and
Absolutely.
like I'm just grateful for the tenants even in this building that we grab coffee together, we share, we have such different interests, and different professions, but just being in it, being in the game. There's one of my favorite passages or quotes. It's the man in the arena. Have you heard of this?
Maybe you jog my memory at the moment. I'm not
Okay.
thinking. What is it?
It's like this. I think it's Teddy Roosevelt. I have to look up, but it's like this passage on how everyone likes to be a critic and
Mm-hmm.
point out how the doer of deeds has stumbled, and it's really, but the glory and honor belongs to the man in the arena, the one
Mm.
that's whose clothes are soiled and marred with blood and tears and I mean that is this year. That is this year,
Yes.
and who people, we need to get in the arena. We need to find the opportunity when people are uncertain and cautious. I mean, think about COVID. Think
Mm-hmm.
about COVID, right? What massive disruption, but also what massive opportunity. 2021. Like if
Yes.
you were investing at that time, I mean, we had massive inflation and but that means asset prices went up a lot. So,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, so I think there's opportunity.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Roll up your sleeves and get dirty, get in the weeds, and
Yeah.
do the work. which is what you do as well. Like you're getting involved in all of these aspects, and you're able to. I think like in a boutique architecture firm, working in a boutique law firm, working in any specialized shop, you have that opportunity to get a more detailed, customized client experience, right?
That's right. That's right. And the office space kind of just it embodies the office space plus the website. You know, if you just looked at those two things, you kind of see what I was going for, right? I want to welcome people in for them to know they're getting the top quality, the top personalized experience that is possible in the legal field. You know, I want them to feel like they're the VIP. I've always treated my clients like this wherever I've been, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I'm like, the client's coming in, let's get a bottle of champagne. Let's go order, when I was at the big law firm, let's go order some merch from the marketing department, you know, and other lawyers are like, what? You do that? What? Like, I'm like, yeah, like they're the VIP. You know, we want them to feel like the VIP. And I always say the client should feel like they are driving like a Rolls Royce. When we're closing a deal, it's often chaotic on the legal side. There's issues that come up, but they should feel like no matter what the condition of the road, like it is a smooth drive and they are in the most luxurious, peaceful, calm environment possible. You know, that means frequent communication. That means talking to them and giving them information the way they want, right?
Absolutely.
Customized for them and getting to know that at the outset.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to another little fun part. So tell us about scuba diving.
So I grew up I grew up snorkeling with my family. We'd go to the Keys. So my parents were certified scuba divers, and I always wanted to get my license. So after law school, my husband and I both got certified in West Palm Beach.
Cool.
And we are now advanced and nitrox certified. And one of the coolest dives I've done was in Turks and Caicos.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this large ledge. Like you just go, it's not even that far offshore, but it'll be like 60 feet, 80 feet, and then just
It drops.
3,000 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're like an astronaut. Like once
Yes.
you go over that point, you're like, there's nothingness, you know? It's really incredible to just feel weightless, and I think it's calming.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's a peace underwater that no cell phones can reach you. No
That's
ding-
where we need to go.
No dings. Yeah, but always dive with a buddy because I've
Yes.
had some scary
Oh, yeah.
experiences too diving alone. So
I hear you.
yeah,
Any sunken treasure?
I have dove some sunken shipwrecks in the
Okay,
Keys. Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those must be interesting. So, here's a question that I ask everybody on the show. To date, what has been your best investment, personally and professionally?
It's an interesting question. I think the investments I've made in myself, I haven't been too aggressive on the external investment side of things. It's kind of, I have some, different clients I've been at have provided opportunities to invest, and that's been fruitful and
Right.
something I should have honestly done more of when I was younger and looking to do more of in the future.
To like invest in the actual projects itself?
Yeah,
or-
I mean, I've been at clients where they've offered investment opportunities as an
Gotcha.
LP.
Mhm.
So I've invested with clients, and then but personally, I mean, just investing in myself when I was young, you know, the 5 a.m. wake ups to go run 5 miles, to go study for the LSAT, to go, you know, like the amount of effort you put in when you're young pays dividends the rest of your life, you know.
Yes.
So I think just having the discipline to go for my goals and all that, and every time I've taken a step back to really focus on my own personal development, I found it's paid dividends. So at whatever stage, I mean, I did it when I was young. I did it recently. Post COVID, I kind of took. This is like the end of a 3-year kind of cycle of personal improvement.
Right.
And looking back 3 years, each year I had a different objective,
Gotcha.
and it's been really, really incredible to see how much you can accomplish with multi-year goal setting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely important to plan, view that future goal, right?
Yeah.
How's that going right now? What's the future goal?
Yeah, so this year is the year of purpose. So going back 3 years, it was foundational.
Okay.
Working on some foundational things with just health, fitness, mental, and then the next year was the year of exploration,
Cool.
which was like letting myself go crazy, do whatever suits my fancy. If I want to go, you know, paint, I'll paint. If I want to go do, taekwondo or golf or tennis or whatever, I just,
Yep.
whatever my ADHD brain wanted to do at the time, that's what I did. And then the third year was the year of focus. That was the year I was partner at Big Law.
Yes.
And then this year was not part of the original 3-year plan, but it's the year of purpose. So
Terrific.
it's the year of really leaning into what I'm all about, what I'm doing with my career, my business, my life.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, that's a great idea for people to figure
Yeah.
out. And, every building has a foundation. You have to find a foundation in your life as well,
That's right.
And your goal, your purpose, your career. And you've done that amazingly. Well, all right. I've asked you a lot of questions, but now you get to ask yourself one. Do you know how that's going to work?
I have no idea. Oh my gosh.
You got to pick a question out of a fishbowl. It's a random question. Just pick one.
All right.
There you go. These are all like random questions.
This is literally blank.
Is it?
This means something. This is like
Wow.
divine. I get to make my own question.
That is interesting.
All right, I'll do it again.
Okay. Wow. That's weird. The other one has a question?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
What would the title of a movie about your life be? Ooh. That's a really hard question. I would say she believed she could and she did.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That we're going to who's gonna play you?
Reese Witherspoon, hands down.
There we
hands
go.
down. Yeah, I mean,
She's also been very active in like these other. I think she's even on LinkedIn and like I follow her and she has very very interesting stuff. She just goes to show you how there's that deep level that everybody can do as well. And I like that title of a movie for you. It definitely sounds like something that everybody can aspire to. Well, now just about to wrap up, but let me ask you, do you have a suggestion for a future guest on the podcast?
always love a real estate developer. You're interviewing just professionals or all?
I want to give everybody the opportunity who has something to do with real estate and investment. That's why, we've also are doing interviews with different founders of companies. We've got, we've got contractors, landscape architects, interior designers, attorneys.
Yeah.
But they're all in kind of like areas that either are related to real estate, but also other areas of business and investment.
I mean, I think it'd be interesting to interview someone on the technology side, prop tech, someone doing something related to real estate, but technology. So,
Okay.
and if anyone is working to put real estate title on blockchain, hit me up because that's I really want to do that. But
Really?
I mean, it's just a natural thing, but it's like such a legacy system and structure going back to the beginning of civilization when we started transferring title and British common law. I mean, that's not when we first started transferring title, but like even British common law is the foundation for American law. I mean, it's hard to undo the requirement for 2 witnesses and a notary and all this, but the promise of technology to be accurate and be able to transfer and convey real property in a public ledger, which is
Right.
really what real estate deed transfers are.
Right.
That's my dream, is to see real estate be put on the blockchain, and not to have to rely on public recorders offices and things that are more susceptible to fraud,
Right.
potentially.
My interpretation of the blockchain in general is kind of like a glorified tracking number.
Right.
That's what I like to say sometimes, but how do you think that kind of like works, that it would all be just
Yeah, I mean the real estate deed works. The real estate deed records works on a grantor grantee index basis, right? Which is very similar to how blockchain works, in the
Right.
sense that you are the grantor. You give property to me as the grantee. Then it's looking for me as the grantee to do something. No one else
Right.
can do anything. It's looking for me
Mm-hmm.
to do something, and that's how the trouble with it is that with real estate, the classic line is real estate is a bundle of sticks. Property rights are a bundle of sticks. They're not one um, unified component. Sure, if you have fee simple title, that's probably the closest to,
Mm-hmm.
the whole
Mm-hmm.
bundle of sticks. But there's you can convey easement rights and air rights, and
Right.
as you get into other cities that have more creative lawyers, you get all
boy,
sorts of
yeah.
slicing and dicing of property rights. And then how do you put that on the blockchain? How do you say I conveyed 1/10 of an interest in the air rights on this quadrant of my property?
Mm-hmm.
How does that get identified? I think there's definitely a technological solution, and I would love to be a part of that. I would love to,
Mm-hmm.
again, with my desire for purpose this year. One of the big things in my law firm is not just to work on high paying matters and pad my own wallet. I want to work on things that have real impact. So
Right.
putting real estate on the blockchain is a personal passion project, as well as tokenization of real estate. Again, I'm
Right.
not a big crypto person, but I
Sure.
just think that these are technological innovations that kind of pairs my and my family's interest in technology with my
Yes.
and going back to even when I talk about drafting a contract, like a coding exercise, like it
Mm-hmm.
pairs
Mm-hmm.
my interest in law with my interest in technology.
One of the parts that I see interesting about that is that I want to see, because you've got so much work that is involved in
Right.
that law, also design, and how to get essentially a royalty out of that work, which would be interesting to see one day if that ever happens.
Like as the designer.
As a designer, because that has some
Mm-hmm.
implications to it. Like, when a house goes to be then later on sold, if it's a very well designed house, that definitely has some part of it.
Right.
And I wonder if, in the same way as kind of like the work as that has been done in the legal aspect, if that has some,
Right.
implications with that. But
Well, I mean, documents like what currently exists is the state takes their cut, right? The Florida
Right.
Department of Revenue takes the doc stamp
mm-hmm.
on every transfer of real estate. So of course you'd have to build in a mechanism for that, but yeah, it's all. I'm sure there are creative ways to also make money on the endeavor. I think with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, it's kind of like they set it in motion and then it's
Yes.
out there, right? And that's the nature of it being distributed. That there's no centralized warehouse, if you will, to process the trades
Yes.
and I think that's really that's the idea. I hate to crush your joy, but that would be the idea.
Well,
the idea would be to
we have-
distribute it, because
Sure.
trade processing. When I worked at Morgan Stanley, I was in
Yep.
the commodities trade processing. I would say it was operations. It was back office, and I would help reconcile trades and all this
Gotcha.
on the trading floor of the commodities group. But it's a lot of administration and a lot of unnecessary administration. Now that we've seen the promise of what crypto can do,
So true.
So.
Well, we'll try and find if somebody can answer those questions for us. So, all right, it is time for the shameless plug. What's something you're working on right now that everybody ought to know, and where can they follow you, Laura?
So I am working on connecting with like-minded individuals, people that are doing things that are movers and shakers, that are industrious, entrepreneurial, looking for a right-hand woman and a right-hand firm to service their legal needs. And so you can find me at mayorlawpllc.com, and my email address is laura@mayorlawpllc.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I have an Instagram, though I have not updated. It's just Laura Maher ESQ.
There we go. And it's Maher, Maher. We'll put all of that in the show notes.
That's right.
Well, that is great. And Laura, thank you so much. I want to thank you again so much for your time. Thank you for being a guest. I hope you had a great time.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your journey, your experience, and being such a wonderful guest. And thank you so much for being here with us. Join me again next time with another amazing interview on The Real Estate and Investment Show with Daniel Clavijo. I'm Daniel Clavijo. Till then, stay awesome, everyone, and God bless America.